Hi guys, this is a video just to help you with the first lesson for descriptive writing. For this, you'll need the Lesson 1 PowerPoint that will be made available on Daymap called Understanding Tone and Mood, and the Word document known as Understanding Tone and Mood Activity. This Word document is what I would like you to upload to Daymap tasks by the end of the week, just to show your understanding of mood and tone. So, as we go through, we'll have a look at the PowerPoint and Word document to helpfully guide you through the task. So, understanding tone and mood. First, I need you to open up that Word document, and I would like you, as instructed, to copy down the definition of feeling, an emotional state or reaction, and emotion, a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. So just in an instance, if we were to go back to the Word document, you'll see that that instruction has been given there. This is the process of the Word document and PowerPoint, so please make sure that you use both or simply use this video as you go along. So back to the PowerPoint. After that, I would like you to create two lists of feelings and emotions, one that is associated with positive emotions and feeling, one that is associated with negative emotions and feeling. Aim for at least 20 for each, and try to initially resist the urge to just Google it, because it is quite easy to Google these, but you want to have a go yourself just to think about, well, how many emotions can you think of yourself? In terms of success criteria, the goal of this lesson is for you to understand the difference between tone and mood, but at least identify tone and mood in one piece of writing, which for today's lesson will be Henry Lawson's The Drover's Wife. So that's the goal overall. After you've done that, I'd want you to reflect and think about whether or not it was quite difficult to come up with 20, or were you easily able to achieve that. For any students present in the classroom, I'm just going to have a quick go around to ask you to share one or two of those that you came up with, and to hopefully compare to see if we had the same or different. It'll be a bit hard online, but just reflect and think about your own, okay? In terms of actual official psychology, according to the Proceedings of National Academic and Sciences, or the Academy of Sciences, there's roughly 27 emotions which are noted here. Everything else falls under these categories. So although you might be familiar with other emotions noticed here, such as ecstasy, melancholy, intrigue, surprise, righteousness, or something such as rage, hatred, loathing, and betrayal, thanks inside out, many of these fall under those 27 categories. So it's just a good little tidbit to know. Do you have to remember all of these? No. Do you have to understand all of them? No. You might not have experienced all of them either. But it's good to know that when we come to writing a descriptive piece, it's important to understand the difference between tone and mood, and knowing what feelings and emotions we feel or we want the reader to feel is very important. So here's a list of just some of the positive emotions that I was able to come up with, and you might have come up with, so have a look and consider them. And alternatively, some of the negative emotions that you might have come up with, and consider them. And really you want to think about how might you use these in your writing to inform or influence the reader as to how they should think and feel about a moment. Excellent. Now, as we go ahead, what I would like you to do is to listen and or read the short excerpt from The Drover's Wife by Henry Lawson. And as you listen to me read it or read it yourself, I want you to consider which emotions would you associate with this piece of writing. So as you read it, what emotions might Henry Lawson have been feeling when he wrote it, and or what emotions and feelings does he want you, the reader, to think and feel as you read it. Consider why, based on the story or what you understand, and more importantly, which key words within the actual excerpt evoke these words and emotions, and you might like to add a comment box and explain why. Now, in terms of the Word document, as we jump back and you've covered your positive and negative emotions and the instructions are here, you can see that I've included the excerpt here, and I've actually given you an example as to how you might like to comment. So I believe that this opening statement helps to create claustrophobic, or that feeling of I guess being entrapped or enclosed because of the size and comparison of the kitchen to the entire house, or the two-roomed house. And then later on in the description of the repetition of bush all around, bush with no horizon, for the country's flat, no ranges in the distance. and the many other descriptions, that we get this feeling of isolation or loneliness as the wife is at in a, I guess, a enclosed house away from everyone and anything, including her husband, who's away working with sheep as he is a drover. So those words or key phrases help to convey that sense and tone. So go ahead and try and use your own comments for the remainder. Just as a quick reminder, if you want to comment, you highlight the word, you can right click it, and then right click and go new comments, and that'll pull up a box and just add something there. Okay, fantastic. So let's go ahead and listen to The Drover's Wife. It's a very long school bell. Okay, if you're on the PowerPoint, just simply click the little audio button. The Drover's Wife by Henry Lawson. The two-roomed house is built of round timber slabs and stringy bark and floored with split slabs. A big bark kitchen standing at one end is larger than the house itself, veranda included. Bush all around, bush with no horizon, for the country is flat. No ranges in the distance. The bush consists of stunted, rotten native apple trees. No undergrowth. Nothing to relieve the eye save the darker green of a few she-oaks which are sighing above the narrow, almost waterless creek. 19 miles to the nearest sign of civilization, a shanty on the main road. The drover, an ex-squatter, is away with sheep. His wife and children are left here alone. 4 ragged, dried-up-looking children are playing about the house. Suddenly, one of them yells, "Snake! Mother, here's a snake!" The gaunt, sun-browned bushwoman dashes from the kitchen, snatches a baby from the ground, holds it on her left hip, and reaches for a stick. Okay, so hopefully you're able to hear that. Feel free to play it a few more times before we hold a class discussion with those that are present and potentially online as to which words, after some reflection, helped create an emotional tone in this piece of writing. What I quite like about it is how we have a key description of the mother, the gaunt, sun-browned bushwoman. So even think about how these key adjectives of gaunt means thin in the face, not from malnutrition, but just maybe because of the setting and the lack of food. Sun-browned bushwoman gives you that very Australian, authentic, determined country image of her skin. Dashes. So dashes is a great verb to consider quick movement, because clearly there's a sense of urgency that is created from the tone of this description, because she dashes from the kitchen, snatches her baby up from the ground and holds it on her left hip and reaches for a stick, as clearly the snake is near her baby. And as you can guess, she's going to use the stick to potentially kill or defend her baby and herself from what could potentially be a brown snake, which we know is quite deadly. So go ahead and think about some key words or terms that are either repeated or imagery, and think about what tone is then created because of this. Now we'll play a short game called I'm Sorry, where hopefully in the text chat I might ask some students to say I'm sorry to the rest of the class online, and without the class knowing what tone I've asked them to say it in, you might try and guess. And this is a great little example and activity to think about how it's not necessarily just the words that we use, but how they are said in a visual or a film. But that's why we need to consider what words we use when we descriptively write. Moving on, we can say that tone in every piece of writing has a central theme or subject matter. So in The Drover's Wife, it's about survival and determination and the Australian spirit, if you were to read the entire short story. The way the author approaches the theme and subject is the tone. So the tone can be formal, informal, serious, comedic, sarcastic, sad, and cheerful, or maybe another existing attitude or emotion. As noted, when people speak or say in a film or play, we can get the tone because of their inflection or how they deliver the words. And this is quickly determined not only by how they say the words, but also hand gestures and their tone of voice. In writing, though, this is why we must consider what words are used and what we associate with those words, because they help to establish a certain tone and emotion. Here are some specific examples of different types of tone, okay? And consider how these words might help describe a certain piece of writing that you might have read in the past or am reading currently. So we have various tones such as light, heavy, intelligent, political, social, liberal, conservative, or more in terms of understanding, we have positive tones. So something that might be happy or clever or sympathetic, as opposed to something that has a negative tone where you might read it and the voice of the character has an angry tone, or they're resentful, or maybe they're feeling guilty, or potentially obnoxious, foolish, or hurtful, or even irritated. The really cool thing to think about is just simply where or how does the author use the setting and describe it to suggest and influence one of these tones, and even what the character looks like, says, or does. How does it establish? If you're still confused, that's okay. That's what we're here to learn about. And just think about the last time you said or wrote something. So for instance, you said something to a family member or friend and they interpreted it incorrectly, maybe because of the tone that you used or the words, or maybe wrote a text message and someone was confused as to whether or not you were being sarcastic. A classic example from one of my favorite TV shows is The Simpsons, and you'll see it here.
Mom! This whole thing is really creepy. Are you sure you won't talk to Dad?
I'd like to, honey, but I'm not sure how. Your father can be surprisingly sensitive. Remember when I giggled at a Sherlock Holmes hat? He sulked for a week and then closed his detective agency.
Well, maybe you'll have to hurt his feelings. The longer he lives like this, the harder it'll be to go back.
You're right. Maybe if I use my least nagging tone of voice. Homer. Homer? Homer? That's it. That's the one. All right, send them on in.
So the joke is there that Marge often nags Homer, but she has to choose the type of tone that her nag will have to make sure that it conveys her disappointment or feelings. Now, if we go back to The Drover's Wife, all that I would like you to do on the Word document is to have a go, and based on your thoughts and understanding, is to consider or write down what tone you think The Drover's Wife has. Following that, I would like you to think about and explain the difference between tone and mood simply by reading on and considering this. That the mood of a piece of writing is the feeling or atmosphere created by the work. It is how the piece of writing makes the reader feel. So tone and mood are not the same. The tone of a piece of literature is the speaker or narrator's attitudes towards the subject rather than what the reader feels as in mood. Mood is the general feeling or atmosphere that a piece of writing creates within the reader. Mood is produced most effectively through the use of setting, theme, voice, and tone. So the little image down here is that how a writer thinks and feels and what words they use is the tone, and how that then influences you as a reader in terms of how you think and feel is the mood. If you're still confused, that's okay. One way that I like to set this example is that the tone is the feeling or atmosphere that the author has set in the story, while the mood is the feeling or atmosphere that the reader feels. I would like you to write down this explanation in the Word document, whether paraphrasing it or using this direct example, so please do that. But what I like here is that, say for instance, if an author might start their story describing a cruel man shouting and hitting his son, which helps establish the tone that the man is hateful and angry, this will give the readers the feeling of anger towards the man and pity towards his son, which is establishing the mood. So it might have a sorrowful mood to it because we empathize with the son who is being hit by the father. I like this little metaphor of considering that the tone is somewhat the puppet master or the author using words and language and imagery to set a certain tone, which then influences how we dance or respond and feel about it. So it's a nice little way to think about that. Now, if we go back to The Drover's Wife, all I would like you to do is in the Word document is now have a go and establish and say what mood has been set or how you felt after reading that excerpt and why. Okay? And at the end of that, once you're done, can you please save and upload that Word document to Daymap Tasks? Thank you.